Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and well, here I am, and this is my review for Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Now, if you have been following my channel, I recently did a stream on Brotherhood for 3 days and I finished the game. So you can go watch that, and this is essentially my review based on what I just played. So this is my review in 2022. Now of course, you have to keep a few things in mind. The game is now 12 years old at the time of asking, so that is also going to be reflected in this review. But before moving any further, I would just like to say, if you end up liking this video, then press that like button. It really helps me out. I don't know in terms of algorithms, but in terms of morale, it definitely helps. And you know what else helps? If you subscribe, that would be great, because that would actually help with the morale thing a lot more, because I keep losing subscribers. It sucks. So anyway, I will stop wasting your time and let's just get on with the review. Now, starting with the positives of the game. Now, there are quite a few positives. Now, it's no small mystery that I like the older Assassin's Creed games. I love the older Assassin's Creed games. So if you feel like I'm being a little bit unfair sometimes, or a little bit biased, I guess I actually am. But anyway, talking about the positives, let's start with what's great first. Now, in terms of what's great, the gameplay obviously is something that I have to say it's great in this game. Now, I am going to criticize a few things about the gameplay, but that's going to be in the negative section, so don't worry about it. I might think it's great, but there are a few flaws. Now, another thing that I feel is great is the level design. Now, to be fair, that was always the case with the older Assassin's Creed games. I felt like the cities themselves had just excellent level design. Like, the way the cities were structured, the way you had visual cues you can use to sort of initiate parkour, or kind of make your decision about where to go. So a lot of those things were present in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood as well, and I felt like the designers did an absolutely excellent job in sort of blending in these Assassin's Creed elements with the city of Rome from the Renaissance Italy. So I felt like that's a really good way to do it, and the map, to me at least, felt really good. Maybe not as good as Venice or Florence or cities like that, but we'll get to that later. Now, some of the other things that were great was the overarching systems, the overarching stories. So you know how the story is kind of flowing from Assassin's Creed 1 to 2 to Brotherhood to Revelations to 3. It's kind of still going. I don't know where, but it's still going. So yeah, the story itself, it is great, the overarching story. The main story, however, that's where we go into what's good. Before we go to good though, there's one last thing in the great category, and that is the music. And it is great. It is so great. So yeah, I'm not even gonna say anything else. Anyway, moving to the story though. Now, the story, I felt it was a good story. It's not the best. It's certainly not absolutely nonsensical, and doesn't feel like it was written by a 14-year-old playing with crayons. I am describing a game here, and I am going to leave that game unnamed. So you might never know what game I'm talking about. Yeah, you totally don't know what game I'm talking about here. But anyway, moving on from that, the other thing that is good about this game, and I have to talk about it, is the economy system. Now, for a game from 2010, it is excellent. For a game now, it kind of feels a little bit rudimentary. Like, if this game were to come out today, I would say, yeah, it needs a lot more depth to it. It doesn't have the kind of depth that, say, an RTS would have. Obviously, this is not a strategy game. This is just a layer of micromanagement just placed upon a normal action adventure game, which is fine by me, because I really like that system. And I feel like having such an economy system, having a system where you are actually investing into these shops, there are investment options, there are ways to earn resources. I feel like that's a really good way to keep the player occupied while they are traversing the world. Like, a lot of the times when you go into the shop and you go in there, if you are having trouble sort of generating income, generating revenue, this is a really good way to do that. It's a really good thing to have in a game, and I don't know why we don't have this in the modern RPG era. Like, if anything, in a role-playing game, this would just be so much better, right? I don't know why we don't have that. Like, we kind of have that with the Dublin DLC, but it's really rudimentary. It's not that good. Like, it's not even in the levels of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, a game from 12 years ago. So that should really tell you all you need to know about that system. So now moving on to other good things, we have the side content. Now, technically, even the economy system is side content, but it's just so good I had to talk about it separately. But among the other good things, I have to name, of course, the layers of Romulus, the Templar layers, the level design in those, the way the gameplay works in those, the puzzle solving elements, and also, the assassin recruits. It's a good system where you can recruit various NPCs in the world, and a technology like Watch Dogs Legion would be excellent in this one. But of course, this is a game from 2010. Now just imagine if we had the recruit anyone sort of thing where those as recruits could even speak to you and you can use those characters in a system like this. It would be like so good. So anyway, you can do that here, and there are contracts and there is a lot of stuff to do. So there is a lot of management stuff in this game, and I really like that. But of course, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. There are quite a few negatives in this game, and now I'm going to get into those. Now, the biggest negative for me is this game's utter lack of commitment to giving the player a good time. Like, this game wants to treat the player like he's a 3-year-old just wanting to get through the game, and I absolutely hate that approach. I have said this about Syndicate, and I've said this about the modern trilogy, so I'm not going to spare Brotherhood when it does the same thing. And in fact, the older Assassin's Creed games pretty much fall into this trap in general. Like, the gameplay becomes so easy. Like Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed 1, it's not that easy. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is extremely easy because of this new kill chaining thing that they have. Now, yes, it is very satisfying to pull off, and there is a little bit of skill involved. But my counterpoint is, if I am able to pull it off pretty much flawlessly, just imagine how simple it is to pull off. I am not that good at anything. If I can pull it off, it is easy. So my point is, this needs to be something that you need to put more investment towards, like towards learning the system, towards learning the timings. And I feel like the timing window is just long enough that even dumbasses like me don't really have any difficulties. Like, I felt like if we had the system from Assassin's Creed 1, where if you used the hidden blade in combat in Assassin's Creed 1, you had to be extremely precise with the timing. Otherwise, you cannot counter them. To counter them, you need to be absolutely precise. In Brotherhood, the window is too large in my opinion. That needs to be shorter. But moving on from the easy part, like, I don't want this to turn into Dark Souls. Moving on from the easy part, I feel like Brotherhood holds your hands in the absolute worst ways possible. Like, it will give you the convenient escape hatch. It gives you just the ability to skip through everything without ever having to learn this game. And that hurts this game. A lot of people, I feel, are playing the game and not really understanding the amount of depth this game actually offers. Because the game itself never tells you about it. And you have absolutely no incentive to do it. For example, comparing it to a very new game, let's compare it to Elden Ring. Like, why do people love that game so much? It's not just because it's hard and people, like to, do that. No. In fact, the hard thing is kind of a turn off for a lot of people, including me. But my point is, it's not that the game is hard. It's that the game offers you various choices to make it so that you can actually play through the game. It's not the hard part that's actually selling the game. It's the solutions available to you that is actually the selling point. But since this particular game, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, makes it so easy on you, you never actually have to figure out how to play the game. Like, it's not hard enough that you need to actually find solutions. It's so easy that you almost never go into finding solutions, or never go into, oh, how do I make this look flashier? And like, how do I make this look cool? Like, if you are doing that, that's cool. I mean, I do that. But most people won't bother. And I'm not telling most people like, oh, you absolutely need to play the game like this. If the game has a convenient option, obviously you can take that. And that is something that is wrong with the game itself. That's not something wrong with the player. And I will criticize that forever. And that is a problem with a lot of the Assassin's Creed games, like with the older style games. Now Assassin's Creed 1 in my opinion did it well. Assassin's Creed 2 also did it well, but in Brotherhood it kind of drops the ball in my opinion. Now other than that, there are a few other things, like for example parkour. Now I feel like the mechanics itself were polished, but in the general bugginess of Brotherhood does affect the game, and also especially when you move out of the main city area, the options for parkour is limited, so that's a problem for me. So yeah, it's not as good as say Florence or Venice in Assassin's Creed 2, but it's still good. It's not bad, but it's just that it's not as good. Now one of the things that I felt was bad was the horse riding. Now I don't object to horse riding itself, but I felt like in this game there is kind of a lot of horse riding, especially when you move out of the main city. If I'm going to criticize Odyssey, if I'm going to criticize Valhalla, if I'm going to criticize Origins for this, I'm also going to criticize Brotherhood, because there was a segment where I was actually riding my horse for about a minute. I don't like that. If I'm going to criticize Valhalla for it, I am going to criticize Brotherhood for it. So yeah, that's where I am. Other than that, I feel like the story is a bit too short. Like it's clocking just under 10 hours. I am pretty sure I can complete it like under 6 or 7 hours if I wanted to. I'm mostly in my streams, like if you can go and check how long those streams were, like mostly I was just screwing around in those streams. And so if I actually were to play it seriously, this game would be really short, like definitely under 10 hours. And I feel like the game needs to be a little bit longer. So if it's like a 15 to 20 hour experience for a AAA title, I'm fine with it. I don't need much more than that. If we have more content, fine, but I don't need more than that. But realistically, if you are getting this game now, if you are a fan who jumped in during Origins or Odyssey or even now Valhalla, these are like really good selling games. If you are jumping into Brotherhood now, my advice to you would be, don't expect like a 100-hour experience. You will get like a 10-hour story, and with the other systems that I've mentioned, with the economies, with the assassin contracts, with the various side content that is in the game, I would say just expect around like 30 hours of content at max. Don't expect any more than that. Now we move on to the most obligatory part of a review, which is giving the game a score. Now I kind of chickened out when I was reviewing Assassin's Creed 1 because I didn't want to give it a score. That's because, when you're trying to give it a score, especially the way it's worked before in my videos, I tried to take all the categories and I just take an average of those categories. But the more I did that, I felt that didn't really reflect my opinion on the game. It sort of reflected a general unbiased opinion, I guess, but it didn't really reflect my opinion. So to do that, I felt like, let me just attach a number that I feel is right. So I'm gonna do that. So for this game, I feel like this is a slight improvement over Assassin's Creed 2 in terms of its general amount of content and in terms of generally what it was trying to do. So I feel like it's slightly better in my personal opinion. It's slightly worse in some areas, but it's slightly better in some other areas. But in general, I feel like Brotherhood is a more complete experience. And if you were to ask me for a game which I would recommend you to play to really understand what Assassin's Creed is about, at least in terms of gameplay, Brotherhood is what I would recommend. So yeah, for me this game is an 8 out of 10. It's not the best. It is definitely among the best. So yeah, it is 8 out of 10. So of course, that is my personal opinion. You may like it, you may dislike it. So do let me know down in the comments below. Click the like button if you like the video. There's a dislike button as well. So even if you can't see it, I can. So if you don't like the video, press that. And if you do enjoy my content in general, then subscribe to my channel. There are a lot of other videos that I make, and I'm going to make them more regularly now. So I'm going to upload on Wednesdays and Sundays, and the rest are going to be live stream days. So stay tuned to my channel for a lot more content, including a sort of guide on how to actually play the older style of Assassin's Creed games. I'm actually kind of excited. I've been working on that for like 2 months now. So yeah, Stay tuned to my channel for all that content, and I will leave you guys in peace.